Here you go. Allahu Akbar. Jazakallah khair. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ما بعد. Last week we stopped and we finished Minhaj al-Salikin, the path of the Wayfarer. We stopped on page 141, so we're picking up on page 142. And we finished the Arkan al-Nikah. So now we're moving on to Bab al-Shurut al-Nikah. Before we start, hopefully, if you get nothing else from this class, hopefully everybody understands you got to pay attention to the way things are worded when it comes to what's the ruling on something. Wording is very important. If the wording changed, the hukam, the ruling could change on it. We could think something is recommended when in actuality it's obligatory, or we could think something is obligatory when in reality it's recommended, right? We can think something is disliked, but in reality it's haram, or vice versa. Wording is very important, all right? Wording is very important. That's why the first class when we gave out the papers, the sheets with the 5 rulings on it, those are very specific. Those are specific for a reason, to make sure that everybody understands the words the same. We can all sit here and say, for example, we always say fasting. It's a bunch of different types of fasting in English, right? In the English language, fasting can have a lot of different meanings, right? And then we have a meaning Islamically what fasting is. Everybody with me? So when we're talking about fasting Islamically, we're talking about the Islamic definition of fasting, not the general meaning that different people might use for fasting. And that's for everything. That we got to be real careful and specific and pay attention to the wording. Tayyib. Tonight we start on page 142. Bab al-Shurut al-Nikah. And these are the conditions of the marriage. Now, the conditions of the marriage contract. How many are there? Because we already did this before in the other book. But how many conditions for the marriage to be valid are there? I don't know what this says, but Nobody? No brave souls? 3? A lot. 2? A lot. 5. MashaAllah. Conditions. Shurut and Nikah. We went over this already. So this, la. Not the pillars of Nikah. Conditions of Nikah. Sisters might need to give y'all an answer, because I'm sure they know. They don't might know. Sisters would, inshallah ta'ala, help the brothers out. Apparently, the brothers didn't do muraja. They didn't review. So we got to know how many conditions for nikah. These type of things you want to make sure you memorize. You might not be able to memorize the whole book, right? When it comes to, it's a number of things, right? This many conditions, this many pillars. You want to try to make sure you lock those in, all right? That'll make the chapter easier. Even when you finish, you always got, that's always going to be something that can stick with you. Tayyib? He crazy, huh? There you are. 4 conditions for the contract to be valid, right? Al-ijab wal-qubul, the offer and the acceptance was the pillars of the contract, right? The pillars of the contract. But now we're talking about the conditions for the contract to be valid is 4. So he says, firstly, let me see. Oh, wow, it's not cool. Firstly, he says, rahimahullah, wala bud fihi min rida zawjayn. The first one that the author mentions here is that both the man and the woman have to be, or they can't be what? Huh? They shouldn't be. That's true. All that's true. But when it comes to the conditions, that they should be pleased with the person they're going to marry, right? So they shouldn't be what? Huh? And one of the mashayikh said, maraja. Knowledge is review. Without no review, when you learn something new without review, it erases by the 3rd day. By the 3rd day, it's foggy. By the 4th day, it's even foggier. Right? And the more days go by without going back and look at the information, it's like you never what? It's like you never learned it. Can't never let your knowledge go by days and days. You don't at least look at it. Tayyib, that nobody is to be forced to be married. Right? They're pleased with the other person they marrying. Right? That's a condition. Meaning what? A condition means what? If these conditions are not filled, then the marriage contract is not valid. Clear? So the first one that he mentions here is rida zawjayn, that both the man and the woman being married, nobody's being forced to be married to the other person. Everybody is fine with marrying the other person. The man is fine with it, and the woman is fine with it. That's the asl. There are exceptions. Some of y'all was here for this too. There are exceptions to this rule. Does anybody remember the exception to the rule? Yes. What's an exception to the rule when the husband or the bride to be, they don't have to be necessarily, as we say, they don't have to be in, they don't have to agree to it. Sisters, the mic is at your disposal. Huh? Tell them to turn it on. That's an insult, Sheikh. I'm not going to do that. Turn the mic on. Huh? What you say? G, the virgin. A virgin, just like that?
Is it when one of the persons are disabled and they can't?
That's one we discussed, Jade. One we discussed is when the person is mentally disabled. They have an intellectual disability, right? They don't have their same state of mind, right? So what happens? The wali marries the girl off, or the wali marries off his son, who can't, as we say, they don't have the enough mental capacity to do it themselves. That doesn't mean they can't be married, right? Doesn't mean that they're not people who cannot be married at all, right? That's the one we spoke about. But here he mentions another one. It says, as-saghira fayujbiruha abuha. It says, as-saghira, right? And the point is to try to compare between the two books. This book is what we're doing now. The Path of Wayfarer is very summarized. Okay, a lot of the issues that we already went over are not in here. So as we going through, you might, okay, they didn't mention this, he didn't mention this, which is fine. He wrote the book like that intentionally. It's not like the author doesn't know the issue, but he wrote it like that intentionally. So it says, as-saghira fayujbiruha abuha, the underage girl who can be married off by her father. The underage girl who can be married off by her father. This is an exception to the rule of what? Everybody who married has to be pleased with the person they marry. That's the original rule, right? Now they bring an exception, except who? As-saghira, the underage girl, who what? Her father marries her off. Not anybody else, not anybody other than her father. Based on what? Like, what is that based on, that the father can marry off his daughter, his underage daughter, without her permission. Huh? Excellent, mashallah. Based on Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anh, marrying off his daughter Aisha to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? At that young age. Clear? That's an exception to the rule. These are exceptions. We don't live by the exception. We live by the rule, which is the woman who's getting married is not to be forced. The man who's being married is not to be forced. That's the rule. The exception is what's mentioned here. It says, number 2, وَالْأَمَةُ يُجْبِرُهَا سَيِّدُهَا. And also the female slave, where the owner will just marry off the female slave. All right? We got to understand what a slave is. A slave is owned. Right? A slave is owned. Yes. Right. In this day and time, it's no slaves. But even though we don't have slaves, the fact that it's mentioned just shows these are exceptions. Now, what he didn't mention is what we mentioned before. The person has an intellectual disability. They can't function on their own. So he didn't mention that here. Right. So it's not like it's restricted to these two, but these are the two examples that he brought. Okay. But yeah. He says after that, ولا بد فيه من الولي. This is the second condition. ولا بد فيه من الولي. قال صلى الله عليه وسلم لا نكاح إلا بولي. Hadith صحيح رواه الخمسة. Next, there must be a wali present. Okay? Based on what? Based on the statement of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, that hadith, that there is no marriage إلا بولي. There's no marriage without a wali. Okay? We're not going to get into the wakil and all that. Or do you want to? Should we? Huh? Whoever shows up with the sister, right? She has a wali at the marriage. The man at the marriage is a wali. Right? So let's just say her wali can't make it. Because the sister says, sisters all the time, they come and they say, this is my wakil. We say, well, who's your wali? We say, well, he is my wali. No, if you telling me that's your wakil, who's your wali? We got to be clear on what a wali is and what a wakil is. Did we do that already? I think we did that. We did that. We did that, right? Sam? The wali, sisters, is, as we know, the wali, your representative, as we say. You need somebody to represent you, right? That's your wali. The wali represents the woman, the guardian, and everything that goes with the job of the wali. Let's say your wali cannot make it to the marriage that day. He missed his flight coming into town, or whatever the case may be. He got caught at work. He can't make it. Your wali designates another brother to come here or to go to the marriage ceremony. That brother that he designates is still your wali, but that brother is your wali's wakil. Clear? So the brother who shows up, he takes over for your wali. That's your wali. He said, well, where's the wali? He's right here. And the brother in reality is the wakil for her actual wali. It's not her wakil. It's her wali. Everybody clear? There is no marriage without the wali, as the Prophet ﷺ said. Who has the most right to marry off? Huh? The father. The father has the most right to marry off his daughter. And who's after him? Jade. The grandfather going up. That's why it says Abuha wa in ala. We're assuming that they fit all the conditions for a wali, which he did not mention. If we notice, you notice he didn't mention all the conditions for the wali, right? When we did all the conditions for the wali, he didn't mention them. All he said was, this is on page 142, right? The one who is most entitled to get a free woman married, her father, wa in ala. And if it goes up, her grandfather, great grandfather, however many are there. If there's 3 of them there and they go up, then they have the most right. Right? After that, thumma ibnuha wa in nazal. After them, what if it's no father, no grandfather, none of them? Then going down, her son, her grandson, great grandson, if that's the case. Clear? This is the order based on what? Where's this order come from? What is the order of the wali based on? From what, sister? They don't like using the mic. We need a longer cord so they can just pass that joint around. No, it ain't long enough because they probably sitting. No, because they're gonna pull the thing off. You gotta get a longer cord, shake. They don't want to get up and get the. They want to be able to see. You know what I mean? Pass it around. Tell you what you say. What is it based off of? Inheritance. The order of wilaya, the order of guardianship, is based off another chapter which is not here, which comes before this chapter. The chapter of inheritance, the books of fiqh, generally comes before nikah. So let's just say in a perfect situation, we would have already studied inheritance. We would have known who's first and who inherits. Blah, blah, blah. So now the order of these men that take the wilayahship is based on that chapter that already came before, which is the chapter of irth, mirath, inheritance. So after her sons, and of course, again, he didn't mention the details or the characteristics that a wali should have of being of age, reached the age of puberty, has his sanity, is a man. He didn't mention any of that. So here we assuming that all of that is found in these men. طيب. After the son, it says ثم الأقرب فالأقرب من عصباتها. After that, the closest people. As it says here, it says then the closest of her what? Who has the book? You see that? You see that now? Her. It's always better to have the book, y'all. Yeah, what is an agnet heir? An agnet heir. Huh? Not necessarily a sibling. If you were sitting home reading this, what would you do to figure it out? That's what we need to do. We should never read past, especially in English, y'all. Don't just read past a word that's in the book and assume it means something. It's easy now. Google. You don't have to go get a book or anything. You just type it on your phone and it's gonna come right up. Right? The agnet heir. Majority of us, even though this is for Allah Akbar, they spell it for you, talk to you, and all that. What excuse do we really have? The thing talk to you, right? Or you could talk to it. Most of us, majority of us, we don't have that deep of a family when it comes to Muslims, right? But you never know. Within the next 20 years, you never know. We could be starting something in our families that's by the time our children are older, that this is going to be important to them. Right now, it might not seem like it's important to us, but I'm the only Muslim in my family. That's now. But we have children, right? The children grow. They have children, right? Which y'all come up with the agnet heir. What is it? Two people related to each other? These are basically the people that will inherit from the father's side. Because remember, all the wilaya comes from the father's side. So he summarized it. He didn't go past the child or the son. But of course, in the other book, he spoke about who? The uncles, the brothers, those people from the father's side, right? That they would inherit from. Okay. It gets into that. So just to show you the books are different. Two different books. This book has a lot more detail. Okay. طيب, he says وفي الحديث المتفق عليه لا تنكح الأيم حتى تستأمر ولا تنكح البكر حتى تستأذن. قالوا يا رسول الله وكيف إذنها قال أن تسكت. And this is also under the same condition, which is the second condition, which is what? The wali. The wali is the second condition. The first condition was, who? They must be pleased. Nobody's forced. The second condition is the wali. Under that, it says la tunkah, that the woman, how do they translate it? Do not marry off a divorced woman without her consent. Do not marry off a divorced woman without her consent. What does that mean? Force who? What woman? It says do not marry off a divorced woman without her consent. A what?
Mature. Mature that no like before that can make a decision.
La. Huh?
Oh wait.
She has rights. They all have rights.
No, you can't marry off the divorced woman because if she don't marry again, inshallah, both her and her husband go to Jannah.
Who's a divorced woman? That's all we want to know. Yes.
The woman that
Huh?
married when we off the lot.
Nah, somebody knows. No, definitely Allahu Alam. Indeed. No doubt, Allahu Alam. What'd you say, sister? Sister's got the answers, y'all. Save them again. If they get this from y'all out of pocket, brothers. Huh? Sure. Yes, sister.
Is it a woman that's been married before? You can't
Yes.
marry her off without asking her, does she want to marry that person?
Yes. A woman who's been married before and now her husband divorced her. Son of a- Oh, brother said, yeah, that's what I said. A sister was married, her husband divorced her. Play it. It says, do not marry off a divorced woman without her consent. Once she's been married before and she's been divorced, right? Because it's why? It's possible to marry a certain type of woman off without her consent, right? It's possible. Is it possible? All right. Here is making clear a woman who has been married before and somebody divorced her, do not marry her off without her consent. That means she has to what? Agree to that marriage. Clear? Everybody clear? طيب. And then this is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. And then the Prophet ﷺ said, وَلَا تُنْكَحْ الْبِكْرُ حَتَّى تُسْتَأْذَنْ. And even if she's a virgin, do not marry off the virgin until what? Until she agrees. Do not marry off the virgin until she agrees. Fadla. All of this is under the wali. He boarded under that, but in reality, it relates to the first one, right? About getting her permission. طيب. So they said, O Messenger of Allah, how does the virgin agree? How does the virgin agree to marry somebody? Right? It says, her remaining silent is her silent approval. Clear? Meaning, a man marries off his daughter, she's a virgin. She sits down with the brother, they sit down, they do the whole process. Right? The man says, do you want to marry him? She's silent. How can she show her approval, number one? She could say it with her tongue. She could say, yes, I want to marry him. Right? Or she might not say anything. Why wouldn't she say anything? Huh?
Because silence is approval in the Sharia.
Yeah, silence is approval, but why? Why? Out of her shyness, they say she might not want to say anything. She's a virgin. We talking about a virgin, y'all. She might not want to say anything. She might say, no, I don't want to marry him. That's accepted. That's accepted. If she opens her mouth and says something directly, it's accepted. But what if she doesn't say anything? She sits there quiet with her head down. That's understood to be that she agreed to the marriage. So if that's the case, pay attention, y'all, because we got to understand that if she doesn't say anything when you ask her, right? This is the pay attention. If the virgin doesn't say anything when her wali asks her if she wants to marry the man, she doesn't say anything. Islamically, what does that mean? That means approval. Okay. Next question. Does the wali have to marry her in that case? Does he have to marry her off?
Yes.
MashaAllah. He says yes, he says no. Pay attention. Does he have to marry her off? Have to. Can he?
Yeah. I mean, yes.
You see the difference in wording? That's what I'm saying. In that case, the wali can marry her off. He can. He doesn't have to. But if he did, you can't say, well, that was a forced marriage. You forced her to marry. La, la, la. Based on the text that we have, Islamically, her silence is approval. So he can marry her off, and it's fine. Does he have to in that right there in that instance? He doesn't have to. But if he did, there would be nothing wrong with the contract. Everybody clear? That's what I mean by wording. He doesn't have to, but if he did, it's no problem. He can, but he doesn't have to. Clear? طيب. He moves to the third condition. The third condition is at the top of page 143, right? where it says, Ahmed reports that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Qala Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a'linu nikah." The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "What? Make the marriage known." What does that mean? Huh? Make the marriage known. Witnesses? Gee, witnesses, huh? I'm listening, G. It says make the marriage known. He says it means witnesses. Let the people know you married. Okay. Anybody else? Make the marriage known. Announce the marriage. Fadl. Gee, the walima. Okay. The point is, in this case, is that what? People know you got married. Right? I don't know why we hiding our marriages and stuff like that. Nobody wants to know. Nobody wants to know you got married. Nobody to know they got married. Brothers showing up with no witnesses to the marriage. Man, come get married. You need witnesses. Like, you don't bring nobody with you. Nobody. All the brothers you know in the community, you bring not one person knows. You'd be surprised. Brothers think that we have the witnesses waiting. Like, y'all don't have no brothers here? What the heck? They're serious. Early in the nikah, you're supposed to announce the marriage. Right? Now, it get into the deep. Further. Huh? Further. You don't know anybody? Oh, let's get to it. We're gonna get to that. Let's get to that. Why you have to? What's going to? The have to is behind what? That's a benefit. So that's a benefit, right? That's a benefit. That's not the reason, but that's a benefit. So what happens when everybody knows you're not married? The whole community knows you. Everybody knows you're not married, right? Next thing you know, we start seeing you with a woman. Y'all eating breakfast, y'all in the car, y'all riding out, y'all moving around. You up in Target at Starbucks, right? What's supposed to pop in the person's head? We having good thoughts. Oh man, mashallah, you got married. We have good thoughts, he got married, right? So the bigger issue is bigger than that, because which is coming next. All right. He didn't word it the way it was worded here, but this is the third condition. It says, from announcing the marriage, shahadatu adlain, two just witnesses. They say what? The witnesses is part of announcing the marriage. Clear? Everybody clear? They're saying that the witnesses being present, even if it's how many? That's part of the announcement of the marriage. That's part of it. At the least. That's at the least. At the least, you got to have two witnesses there. That doesn't mean you can't have 100, right? For some reason, we think our marriage has got to be like, I don't even know the word to use it. Like they can't. I'll just say this. For some reason, we think our marriages can't be big. Like, why do we think our marriages can't be big? It's a big thing. You're giving your daughter over to a whole nother man. He's going to go in the house with her and lock the door. She might not call you for days at a time. Saajid, right? It's a big thing. For some reason, we think that the marriage got to be like the smallest thing, and you can't do anything other than the skeleton. Oh, it's too much. It's wasting. You can't. I don't know where that came from. And I'm not saying you have to be wasteful, but at the least, it got to be two witnesses, right? At the least. It doesn't mean that it can't be 50, 100 witnesses, right? Oh. So part of announcing the marriage is the witnesses, right? At the least, the witnesses. He says after that, right? He says two just people announcing and publicizing it. Announce it. What? This is one way they tell you. It says وإشهاره وإظهاره والضرب عليه بالدف. By banging with the duff. You know the duff? Does anybody know what a duff is? A drum. They got a drum. You ever see them videos and they be banging on the drum? Like making all the noise. This is a sign of what? Somebody got married. MashaAllah. This is a happy time. This is a time of farh. Happiness. Let everybody know. You hear the duff banging? Somebody got married. MashaAllah. What happens if you come in this masjid right now and we banging on the duff? You see the problem? Out of our ignorance, we'll criticize with sunnah. We'll critique and criticize something, whereas athar the Prophet ﷺ, hadith mentioned in the duff, we'll criticize it because we don't know, because of our lack of knowledge. And then we'll start calling people names for doing what? For practicing something from the sunnah that I didn't know. From the
What is the description of the group?
Like
all these drums regard the group, because the group have to be described. Who are the people that are permitted to beat the group?
Hold up, yeah, Sheikh. Let me read what the author says first. He didn't mention all that. He said bang the duff. Now the duff is it's a drum. Generally, it's a drum, but it's not every drum. And me personally, I don't know them, but the sisters probably know better than us because they use it more often than the men do. And that's an issue. Is the duff for the men and the women, or is it only for the women? That's an issue the ulama differ on. I haven't personally seen a real duff myself. Duff. So I can't describe it. Huh? You seen it? Or you got to describe it. I haven't personally seen it. So I can't describe it. Right? I don't know if Google Translate is enough for that. I don't know. You can Google it and it might come up. Whatever comes up. Whatever comes up if you Google duff, the drum, it'll come up what it is in English. It's something that we all heard of. I can't remember the name of it. You know what it looks like? What it say it is? Because I was told that this translation is not. Oh, percussion. Allah. I don't know, because I've never seen it, so I'm just giving you the skeleton. There's a drum that's permissible to beat during the time of announcing the marriage. Tayyib. You might want to talk to your wife or some of the sisters. They could find, there are people who have them. Sisters know. We don't know, right? But the sisters know. It's findable, if that's a word. I can't really describe it to you because I haven't personally seen it, though. But that's also part of announcing the marriage. Question: do you have to beat the duff in order to announce the marriage? Can you? If you go somewhere and they're beating the duff, then you assume the assumption that it could be. It doesn't. It's not only for nikah, right? But the assumption is it could be that somebody got married. That's part of announcing the marriage. Tayyib. All of this comes under spreading an announcement of the marriage. Clear? How do we spread the information of marriage in our time? Allahu Akbar. Social media. Will it suffice? That's a good question. Is that enough to post it on social media? Is that enough without witnesses? With witnesses. With two witnesses. Alhamdulillah, 2 witnesses. Dang. 2 witnesses in the post. Allahu Akbar. We living in a different time. Jade. 2 witnesses is 2 witnesses is Jade. Huh? Nah, come on, man. 2 witnesses in the post. Tayyib. All of that falls under, and that's why it says وَنَحْوِهِ. It says in things of a similar nature, because it's not restricted to what's mentioned there for announcing the marriage. It's not restricted to those things, but you may go somewhere and people from the Middle East, they invite you to a wedding, you get over there, they beating the drum. You know how we are. Hey, shout out, man. They over there dancing and beating the drum. I ain't talking about the dance. You go in there and they beating the drum. Because he said, does it have to be a specific beat? I'm not, it's not my specialty. I've heard it before. I don't know if they have like, Allah Alam. But if it happens, it's not like it's something that's foreign to our deen. It might be foreign to us. We don't know about it, but it's not foreign to our deen. طيب. He says, وَلَيْسَ لِوَلِيِ الْمَرْأَةِ تَزْوِيجُهَا بِغَيْرِ كُفٍ لَهَا. And this came to, the word they use here is suitable. Remember we spoke about that the man and the woman, the man that the woman marries, they need to be on the same like level, right? He's mentioning here and it's translated here as suitable, right? Which is, if we could say, just on the same level, right? And they said it meant there was a couple things were involved. Of course, deen. Huh? La, this is all under the same condition. Under announcing the marriage, the shahada. This condition here, the way he worded it, if you have the book, the way this is worded, this is the condition of the witnesses for the marriage, where it says announce the marriage, because that's an issue. What is announcing the marriage? At the least, 2 witnesses, at the least. That's considered announcement. And anything above that is fine. So the father or the wali is not allowed to marry the woman off to someone who is not on her, as we say, level, right? No, this is not 4. This is the part of 3. It says, فَلَيْسَ الْفَاجِرُ كُفْوًا لِلْعَفِيفَ وَالْعَرَبُ بَعْضُهُمْ لِبَعْضٍ أَكْفَاء. The way that's worded, it says, what is that? Licentious? Is that the word? A fajr. It says that I don't know, man. Translation. The fajr, the sinful man should not be married off to, if we put it in our terms, you should not marry a man that's not deening to a sister who's deening. He's openly not on his deen. He's openly not on his deen, right? He's openly disobeying Allah. Openly in public, he posts on the internet. Everybody knows that this man here is not practicing Islam. No way, shape, or form. Huh? No. We're not talking about if she like him or not. We talking about the wali. The wali marrying his he brings a man who's not practicing Islam to a woman who's practicing Islam. They're not the same. They're not on the same level, deen wise. Yes, they're both Muslims, but they're not on the same, what we say, page, right? Yeah, it's. Say it again. Good. A fajr. When does a person reach the level of being labeled a fajr? Openly, because we all nobody's free from a sin, right? But people might look at you and think, man, mashallah, I want to be like this brother. I want to be like this sister, right? Because they don't see, which is khair. If Allah covers us, then alhamdulillah, right? But what about the person who is open? Everybody sees them. They drink, they smoke weed, they get high, right? They sell drugs, they selling guns, they into whatever they into. They don't care. They don't care who sees them, who doesn't see them. You bring them to, they go to their club, right? Wherever they go live and they show you what they're doing. This is open, right? This is another level of disobedience, right? This type of person, not be married to a sister, she's in the masjid, going to class, striving to be a good Muslim. That's not the same, okay? طيب. And then there's the issue, وَالْعَرَبُ بَعْضُهُمْ لِبَعْضٍ أَكْفَاءٌ. And this is the issue here. The Arabs are a match for each other. And that's a whole discussion of people being on the same level. And many of the ulama differ in that area, that the Arab is not better than anybody else. That they're all, and can you restrict it to say, okay, these people are better than these people based on them they're Arabs or not? Many ulama disagree with that statement. طيب. طيب, the next issue, it says فإن عدم وليها أو غاب غيبة طويلة أو امتنع من تزويجها كفءا زوجها الحاكم كما في الحديث السلطان ولي من لا ولي له أخرجه لأصحاب السنن إلا النسائي. طيب, the next issue is, what if the wali, it says فإن عدم, she doesn't have a wali, right? A woman doesn't have a wali. What happens, right? Or her wali, her guardian, has been absent for a long time. That's another situation, could be. Or her guardian prevents her from marrying someone that is good for her. He just refuses to marry her. Remember we did this issue? If y'all was here, we did the issue of the wali refuses to marry her. There's a couple things can happen. She possibly doesn't have a wali, a guardian. Or the guardian, she does have a wali, but he just been gone. He's been traveling for a long time. He's right. Or the wali is there, he's present, but he just refuses to marry to anybody that's suitable for her. This is a good match. All the dots line up. Nah, he refuses to marry her. All right, what happens? He says, in this case, zawajah al-hakim, that the ruler can marry her off, which means the wilaya, his guardianship, is basically removed for the marriage. Okay, the ruler. In our case, we don't have rulers, right? We don't have a Muslim ruler, a Muslim court to go to and complain in court. Because when you talk about a hakim, the ruler, we got to understand this. In the Muslim countries, there's a court system. There's a real court, just like we have a court system here. Okay, it's not like the ruler is just like a movie or something like that. No, there's a leader of the country. Their courts set up. Their judges sitting in the courts. They hear cases, just like cases are here. They have lawyers, just like we have lawyers, okay? It's a whole court system. So what happens? In that case, the sister will go to the court, explain what's going on. They investigate the situation. If it is what it looks like, then that means the ruler, the hakim of the country, is allowed to marry her off, even if the wali doesn't agree. Clear? Everybody with me? We don't have a ruler, so where do the sisters go? Sisters go to the masjid, right? That means the masjid in that case would take the position of the ruler. Everybody understand? The issue always comes, what if they don't want to do, if they don't, listen, deen is deen. Whoever wants to practice Islam, ahlan wa sahlan. The people going to the masjid because they're trying to do things Islamically, right? If you want to do things that's the non-Islamic way, why you go to the masjid? You go to the masjid, what do you think they're going to do it the non-Islamic way? You go to the masjid, they're going to try to do it as much Islamically as possible, close to the Quran and Sunnah as possible, right? The problem is a lot of times when it doesn't fit what we want, right, we want to take another route. That's on the person. That's not on the masjid. That's on the man or on the woman. So what happens? She doesn't have a wali, so she goes to the masjid, whatever masjid she goes to. The wali, and the issue, this is the issue usually, her and her brother have already spoken. They already started. They already got the ball rolling. So really, it's a wrap. Really, for real, I really just need you to show up so I can marry him. That's what it's really about. But she don't know when she went to the masjid, the brother takes his waliship, his guardianship, his position serious. So he doing the homework on the brother. He really doing what he's supposed to do, as if that was his daughter, like he's supposed to, or his mother, or his sister. That's what he's supposed to. That's his job, right? And if you came in there with the intent to just hurry up and get married real quick, he's doing what? Well, he's doing too much. You doing too much, man. I'm gonna scratch him. Let's shoot down here and see if they can marry us tomorrow, right? And then you get what you get from that. You can't blame Islam for that type of movement, because Islam said for the guardian, for the wali that you went to in the initial place, sister, he was doing what he was supposed to do as a wali. He's supposed to investigate the man. That's his job. If he doesn't investigate the brother that you're looking to marry, he did you a disservice. Like he really did. He oppressed you if he didn't do his just homework on the brother that you brought to him. It doesn't mean the wali has to find you a man. But when you bring a man and the wali is investigating to make sure he is what he's supposed to be for you, to make sure he's worthy of marrying you, and you say, nah, he doing too much, that's on you now. Don't blame the wali. The wali is his job is to investigate and make sure that man is who he says he is. Yes.
Like you're saying, where the sister basically where you tell the wali like you're doing too much, and she tell him like I already know him for a year, we've been da da da, and the wali does agree to the marriage. Is he in the wrong for that?
Is the wali in the so the sister says she already knows him.
Basically, yeah.
I already know him. I checked him out. I did the homework. You don't gotta do all that. We just trying to get married on tomorrow. And then what?
If the wali goes along with it, or the wali go along with it, will he be Islamically wrong for that?
What would you say, Shay? He said Wakil. That's cool, Shay. If the wali, so if the wali doesn't do that, or if the wali goes along with that, has the wali done his job? Men. Did the wali do his job in that case? No, he didn't do his job. Her talking to him is not, I'm sorry, sisters, but I gotta be so it's clear. You talking to him means nothing to us as the wali, okay? You gotta understand it. We talking here as men with daughters, okay? The fact that you spoke to him on your own means nothing to us when we trying to do homework and investigate a man, okay? Y'all gotta understand that. So you can't come and say, I spoke to him, mashallah. We like, all right, alhamdulillah, I'm gonna talk to him. Because we understand as men, he's gonna talk to you one way, and he's gonna talk to a man, a different way. So the fact that you spoke to him, cool, but it's not done. It's not a done deal, okay? So like he said, if the sister already spoke to the man, the wali, and she comes to the wali, the guardian says, well, I already spoke to him, she explains the whole thing. So what she's trying to say is, you don't have to do no work. I did all the work for you. No, we don't accept that. The wali, the guardian should not accept that. The wali has a job. He's responsible. His job is to do his due diligence and make sure everything is in place for that sister to be safe, taken care of, getting her rights that she's supposed to get. Could the wali make a mistake in his judgment and choosing a man? He could. It's possible. Nobody's perfect. It's possible that the wali makes a mistake. All right? But at the least, he did his full due justice in trying to seek out and do an investigation. And if he comes up short, qadarallahu ma shafa'al. But just to take the statement of the woman who's already looking to get married, no, that's not a wali does not and should not move like that. That doesn't mean necessarily that the marriage will be invalid. Doesn't mean that the marriage will be invalid. But when stuff don't work out, y'all, just bottom line. When it doesn't work, don't blame like Islam. Don't blame Islam. Islam has a system. Islam is a system to protect everybody. If you buck the system, you remove the protection from yourself. طيب. He says after that, وَلَا بُدْ مِنْ تَعْيِينٍ مَنْ يَقْعُ عَلَيْهِ الْعَقْدِ. This is the fourth condition. And he mentioned in the other book, this was the first condition. It says that the two, labud for the marriage, that the two that are getting married have to be what? Specified. You got to be specific on who's getting married, right? It's two Abdullahs in the room. You say, I'll marry Abdullah to Khadijah. There's two Abdullahs and six Khadijas. Like, that's not enough, right? The man has two daughters. I'll marry you to my daughter. Which daughter? He has two. Right? So it has to be specific who's being married, the man and the woman. Okay? Ta'yin az-zawjayn. Sheikh? Got a question? It says it's obligatory for the one who is intended for marriage be specified. Right? If the man has one daughter, that's one thing, because he only has one daughter. Right? But if the man has more than one daughter, is more than one son, then they have to be specified. How do you specify a person? Mention their name. First name or what? First name and last name. We don't want everybody to know. People, we don't want nobody to know our last name. I mean, I'm just saying, what are we into that we so secretive? Like, what we doing? Nobody can know. Just trying to figure out what we doing. You know what I'm saying? You be specific, first name, last name. It's possible, y'all. It's possible that the witnesses you bring don't know you by your attributes. Say you bring two people you grew up with. They still call you by your name that you grew up with. They don't call you by what everybody calls you at the masjid. Is that possible or not? It's possible. So when you bring them in here and you start calling them your name, everybody knows you around here. They looking like, well, I thought you was, yeah, like, so in that case, your witnesses need to know. If your name, whatever your name is, man, you need to know. We should be able to say your name, both names if need be, so everybody know who's clear, who's getting married. Don't just say a name or bring a kunya. They just call you by your kunya. Nobody knows you by that kunya. You need to be specific, so we got witnesses. They came here to make sure that these two people are getting married. It's people that I know. I knew people for a long time. I knew brothers for a long time. I got brothers that I knew for a long time. They call me Saajid. Smile, Saajid, yo, assalamu alaikum. Right? I know brothers for a long time, don't know my name is Saeed. All they know is Abu Saajid. Right? I knew him for years, long time. And other brothers, huh? Oh, he drawn. I know other brothers don't know me by Saeed and don't know me by Abu Saajid. So in a case like that, you got to make sure that everybody's wide and know who's who. You don't mention one name and half the people know, half the people don't know. The witnesses that you brought, let's just say you only have 2 witnesses. They know you by clearance, but you don't want the master to know your name. You don't want the master to know your name Clarence, so you going by your Muslim name. Alhamdulillah. That's clear, right? لابد من تعيين الزوجين. طيب. So they need to be specified. It says فلا يصح زوجتك بنتي وله غيرها. So it's not enough for the man to say I marry you to my daughter and he has more than one daughter. That's not enough. That's not enough. Right? It says حتى يميزها باسمها until he specifies who she is. Either he mentions 2 things here. It says by name or by description. He could say her name or he could say what? He could describe her. The short one, I'm married to the tall one. I'm married to the doctor. It's 2 daughters. One is a doctor, one is a teacher. Right? He specifies about that. Is it? Let's just say let's say it's a marriage. His whole family there. Shoot. All his daughters are sitting in chairs. It's a marriage. Everybody came to witness the marriage. His daughters, all of his daughters, but only one of them getting married. I'm married to my daughter in a chair. You understand? It's marriage. And the point is, this contract, what the contract does, it makes as they say, it makes the private part halal for the other person. This is a serious contract. You got to be specific. You married the wrong person to the wrong person. This is a problem. So, yeah, he has 6 daughters. All 6 of them are sitting in chairs. Right? You need to be specific. It would be better to bring her forward, describe her, mention her name. And that's why I mentioned that. Mention by name or possibly by description. Or something else that might specify who he's talking to, describe her. طيب. He says also, لا بد أيضا من عدم الموانع بأحد الزوجين. It says in the book, additionally, there should be no impediments in relation to either of the 2 prospective spouses that may hinder the marriage. Yeah, what does that mean? I'm going to read it again. It says, additionally, there should be no impediments in relation of either of the 2 prospective spouses that may hinder the marriage. 143, the last paragraph. What does that mean, y'all? No haram what? No haram conversations? La.
You can't deal with them without
It says, additionally, because we talking about what? The 2 people have to be clear who get married. On top of that, it should be nothing. There should be no, impediments in relation to either of the 2, the man or the woman getting married, that may hinder the marriage. Yeah, it should be nothing good. Remember we spoke about that? It should be nothing blocking either one of them from getting married. Clear? No? What will block a man from being able to get married? He already has 4 wives. Right? he can't marry anymore. You need to, it should be make sure that that's not the case. There should be nothing blocking a man from getting married. What could block a woman from being married? Huh? She's already married, or huh? She's in iddah. She's been divorced, but she's still in iddah. You can't marry while she's in iddah. So if those things should not be, there should be nothing blocking the two from being married. He can't have 4 wives and you try and marry him to a 5th. It's not going to count. Whether they did the ijab and qabul and the wali came and all that, it doesn't count. He has something blocking him, blocking that contract from being valid. Same thing if a woman's in iddah. They come with the wali, he gave her dowry, they did all of that, but she's in iddah. Brought the witnesses out. You know, as they say, we already made reservations and all that because everybody hit that. It doesn't count. She has something blocking that contract from being valid. We ain't get there yet, Sheikh. That's coming, inshallah. Inshallah. طيب. Clear? It says, وهي المذكورة في الباب المحرمات في النكاح. طيب. It says, and those things, other things that block are mentioned in the next section, which is the muharramat fi nikah, which are the women, as it says, the prohibited marriages, who a man is not allowed to marry, who a woman is not allowed. We could do page 144, I guess. Or we could wait. Well, then we probably should wait then. But basically, that part of the women who can't be married. And there are 2 types of prohibited. It says the prohibited marriages, but these are, the first section are the women who you can't marry. The man you can't marry, sister. The woman, for the man, the woman you can't marry. And there's 2 sections. There's some muharramat ila al-abad. There's some that you can never marry, ever. And there's some is not allowed to marry him because of a certain reason. But that reason could be removed. And if that reason is removed, then you can go in and marry her. It's 2 different sections. Everybody clear? It's 2 sections of women or of men that you can't marry, sister and a man, and vice versa. There's some men that a sister can never marry, ever. And there's some women that a man can never marry. Okay? Like who? Huh? Your mother, right? Let's just stop right there. You can never marry your mother. You can never marry your sister. These are women, you can never marry them, ever. Right? Your aunt. There's a list. Let's just do the categories first. And then there are women. Hold on, Sheikh. We're going to get there. Sheikh, we're going to get there. We ain't get there yet. Right? You can never marry them women. Then there's a group of women, you can't marry them right now because of the situation that's in front of you. All right? Everybody with me? This is on page 144. It says those who are permanently prohibited. That's a section. Like who? Mom, grandmom, sister. And then it says those who are temporarily prohibited. We ain't get there. We're gonna get there, inshallah. Not tonight, though. Oh, let's do the first part, because the first part, inshallah, to 144. It says the ones who are permanently prohibited. Right? It says 7 who are prohibited due to kinship. You related to them. This relation prohibits marriage to these women forever. There is no time you can marry one of these women. Okay? Number 1, mothers. It says al-ummahat wa in alona. It says mothers, no matter how high the ascendant. What does that mean? You can never marry your mother. You can't marry your grandmother, your great-grandmother. You can marry none of them ever. There's no time where that's going to be allowed. Okay? Number 2, daughters. Right? وَالْبَنَاتِ وَإِن نَزَلْنَا. And the daughters would, no matter how low with the descendant. You can never marry your daughter. You can never marry your granddaughter, your great-granddaughter. You can never marry them. They're off limits forever. Clear? طيب. Number 3, it says... Let me see how it's written in Arabic. Hold up. It says, والبنات وإن نزلنا ولو من بنات بنت. Hello. Oh, okay. Tell you. All right. Sometimes this stuff is confusing in Arabic, y'all. Seriously. Honestly, because we have words, they have like, it's like literal in the Arabic. I'll show you in a minute. طيب. It says number 3. والأخوات مطلقا. You can never marry any of your sisters, whether it's a full sister or a half sister. A full sister means what? Same mother and father. And a half sister, y'all got the same one and not the same of the other. So just because y'all don't have the same dad, same father, don't mean you can marry her. You can never marry any of your sisters. Clear? طيب, that's number 3. Number 4. It says, وَبَنَاتُهُنَّ. You can never marry. This is how they talk. You can never marry your sister's daughters. Yeah. They call them your sister's daughter. That's what they call them. Right? You can never marry your sister's daughter. So you can never marry any of your nieces. Clear? Right? Let me ask y'all something. Is this common sense? Okay. All right. Alhamdulillah. I just want to make sure. Yes. I'm not speaking to Ali Sheikh. His class is on. Oh, all right.
I asked him, the question was about the marrying the cousin.
We ain't get there yet. We ain't see what I'm saying? We ain't get there yet, Sheikh. Inshallah. We might not get there tonight, though. Tell you, these are the people you can never marry. Now, once we finish this, we'll see where the cousin fit in at. All right. Right now, we at who? So this is my point. We would have just said nieces. And that covers who? Your brothers and both sides. They don't consider that's not both sides. To them, that's why they say your sister's daughters. Then on number 5, it says your brother's daughters. That's not how they talk. They separate them. So if for us, you can't marry any of your nieces from your brother or your sister, period. Yeah, they're real. That's why I said they like literal. Your brother has daughters and your sister has daughters. You can't marry your brother's daughters and you can't marry your sister's daughters. To us, you can't marry your nieces. Right? Never. Clear? That's 5. طيب. It says والعمات والخالات ولو له لو أو لأحد أصوله. طيب. You can never marry. Again, you can't marry your aunts. To us, we say you can't marry your aunts, but they specify you can't marry your paternal aunts, even if it's your great aunt, right? Everybody clear? We know paternal. What's paternal aunt? The paternal aunt is your aunt on your father's side. The aunts on your father's side, you can never marry them. Even if they're the great ones, the great aunt. That's my great aunt. I never seen her before, ever. Right? That doesn't mean just because you never seen her before, just because, we got situations. Sometimes your aunt be around your age. That don't mean because you never seen her and they just came from such and such. That don't mean you can marry because you never saw her. And that's because, well, it's not like my first aunt. That's like your aunts you can never marry. On the paternal side or on the maternal side, which is the mother's side. It's the same thing. We call them aunts, but to be specific, you can't marry your aunts on your father's side, even if it goes up, your great aunts, and you can't marry your aunts on your mother's side, even if it goes up. These are the people that you can never marry. Clear? Who wasn't mentioned? Huh? The cousin wasn't mentioned. The cousin was not mentioned. What? Cousin wasn't mentioned. So these are the people we can never marry. And if the cousin's not mentioned, then it's possible what? It's possible. It's possible. Right?
But didn't they only do that for, to keep wealth together? Or is that like certain culture?
The reason for doing it is, the reason for a person doing it is one thing. Before we go to a person's reasoning for doing it, let's figure this out. Who can you marry Islamically? Who can you never marry Islamically? That's the first thing we want to get to. Once we get to that, okay, the cousin's not mentioned. Now, a person, it might be different reasons. It could be based on their culture. It could be a bunch of different reasons. That's a specific case-by-case situation. Why? The thing is, if a person married their cousin, because they do, people do it all the time in the Muslim world. It's not something that's a secret in the Muslim world. We don't practice it here, right? But in the Muslim world, huh? Say it again. Does it have to be a long-distance cousin? Pay attention. Was the cousin mentioned here? Okay, that means what? It's possible to marry the cousin, right? I don't know anything says it has to be like your cousin from down south that you never seen, and they kind of into that down there. So if she can, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it can happen. Now, just because it's not like something that we do, y'all. It doesn't mean that if you run into a person and they tell you married to your cousin, oh man, you can't marry your cousin. No, Islamically, our choice to do things, to practice it or not, is one thing. Hukman, Islamically, is a person allowed to do that? That's a different conversation. Clear? We're going to stop there, though. Next week, we'll pick up with the 7 who are prohibited due to breastfeeding, and they are similar to the ones mentioned above. But that takes a little more. That takes a little more discussion. Some people do it. Some people know about it. Some people don't. That 2 people who are not related, they can become brothers and sisters through breastfeeding. Right? And if they become brothers and sisters through breastfeeding, so what that look like? That means a sister has a son, and a friend of hers has a daughter, right? Clear, they the same age. So what does she do? One of them, they take their son or their daughter to the other sister who they're not related, and they allow their son, she allows her son to feed off the breast of her friend who has a daughter. Once that child, the boy, feeds on that breast enough times, it's not like one time. Once he feeds enough times off of that breast, those 2 babies can never marry. They become brothers and sisters through breastfeeding. Clear? And he can never marry her.
Is this something that clarifies for like today's age where women don't necessarily, every woman doesn't breastfeed, but someone might have like breast milk? Would that take the same precedent?
Shit, can we just do regular stuff? No, we deal with that next week, inshallah. He said, does it have to be on the breast or can it be through milk? She pumps the milk out into a bottle, right? She pumps the milk out into a bottle. And then, she puts the bottle in the refrigerator. The sister brings her son over and feeds him the breast milk. Huh? Yeah. We'll deal with that next week, inshallah ta'ala. But that's the idea. The idea is that children can be made brother and sister through breastfeeding. And that's why it says 7. Those 7 that we just spoke about, the aunts, the mother, the grandmother, those 7 who are prohibited, right, due to breastfeeding. Because these are 7 that we just spoke about. There's 7 more that are prohibited that we can never marry due to breastfeeding. And there's 7 of them. We'll deal with that next week, inshallah. Unless there's any questions, we'll stop. We'll stop there. No more questions? Huh? Any questions, sisters?
I have a question, but I don't know if it's for you or Ali.
Okay.
For the sisters that, so it's 2 scenarios, but the same kind of direction. A sister marries a brother in prison. He's been in there for a year. They never consummated the marriage, but she wants a divorce.
They never consummated.
Huh?
You said they never consummated the marriage.
Because he's in prison. They can't.
And she wants a divorce.
Right.
So what's the question?
Do she have to wait the 3 months or can she just get out?
What she said? Huh? He brought that up, yes, Chef. Huh? Sister married her brothers in jail. They never consummated. Does she got to wait for her mens? Does she have to wait? That's the question.
Yes.
right? Does she have to wait for in the idda?
Nah.
Shouldn't. What do you have on it, Akhi? Allahu alam. Allahu alam. Maybe, hopefully, we can get to that next week. The first question before we start class, inshallah. What's the other issue?
Same situation in prison. They did consummate. He went to prison. He's in there for years, and she wants a divorce.
They consummated, you said?
Yes. Prior to, they consummated, and then he's in prison now for years. So now she's just, home.
So the second situation, they consummated the marriage.
Correct. But he's now in prison.
Oh. So the question is what? Does she have to wait in her idda?
Yeah, same thing. This is the 3 month, the mints, 3 months, because now she's not having sex at all.
Yeah. He said, yeah, it's 3 menstrual cycles. This is what the sheikh said. Those are two different situations, right? One, just so everybody's clear, one, the man never consummated. He never had sex with her. They never had sex together. So the question is there an idda when the man never touched her? He was in jail. They got married. They never had intercourse. And now she wants a divorce. If he divorces her, does she have to wait the 3 menstrual cycles? That's the first question. The second question is, the man married a woman. He did. They consummated the marriage. They had intercourse. Does everybody know what consummate? I'm just saying, like, outside of us in here. Never mind. People know consummate? All right. So the second issue, they consummated the marriage. He did have intercourse with her. They had intercourse. And then he got locked up. Right? So now the question is, does she have to wait? If he divorces her, does she have to wait for the, in the idda, the 3 menses? Yes. It depends. Well, whatever he did, if he divorces her or if he gives her khula, whatever the case may be, is it an idda? I don't know, Sheikh. I ain't answering the question. I'm not answering the question. Tyler.
With the second part, he's been locked up for years.
He's been locked up for a couple years?
Yes.
Were they ever alone, the first group, or he married? Were they ever alone? The first sister, the first situation. The first sister, the first situation, the sister that married the brother in prison that they didn't consummate, was the woman and her husband, were they ever alone in a room together?
No, because when you visit, you're never alone.
Okay. Allah, I gotta do some background research on that. Sheikh Tyler, Sheikh. Come on. Well, this is what we do. Inshallah, we do some research on it for next week. That'll be the first. You can come see. Ahzab verse 49. Check that out. So it's Ahzab verse 49. According to the Sheikh, in my opinion, I can't answer that right now. Allahu Alam. Come on Monday. Oh no, not this Monday. Any other questions? That's a good question though, because for some reason, never mind. Father. It don't matter. It doesn't matter who wants it. Point being, the question is, does she have to wait in idda or not? If she gets a divorce, it's her idda. Khula is her idda. Her question is, does she have to wait in idda? That's her question. Oh, that's a different situation. That's different. On what? Oh, that she doesn't? Tayyib. We're going to do some research on it, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, for next week. Inshallah. That's it?
They get one without the brother give him a cola or a tulak.
What you mean?
Like, you married a guy, you got him in jail.
Right.
You want a divorce, but did you ask him for a divorce? Whether he granted you or not? And he granted you his property, or they just say they want to get divorced without even.
No, he got to divorce her. He has to divorce her, or she has to ask for khula. He got to give her khula, and then yeah. Oh, well, I get you. Yeah, the woman's not automatically in iddah because her husband's in jail. You mean? Yeah, that's assuming the man pronounced divorce on her, or assuming he granted her khula. Allahu a'lam. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak nabiyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sallam. Oh yeah, next week, Monday and Thursday, no class. Monday and Thursday next week. Monday and Thursday, no class. The following Monday and Thursday, inshallah. Kitab al-Salat. Inshallah.